What we have here today is a 2007 Honda Fit. Today we're going to learn how to change the oil on one of these things. What we have here today is a 2007 Honda Fit. This is a base model, but it doesn't really make a difference for what we're doing today. Today we're going to learn how to change the oil on one of these things. All you need is the right type of oil. You can look up on your user manual what you need. This model, 2007-2008 Honda Fit, again, takes 5W20. That is the weight of oil that you want. And if you're using a Fram filter, that is the code. Okay? There you go. Again, I change it every oil change. You don't have to. It's a little bit of overkill. I realize that, but I just do it every time. These will last for 15,000 miles. I change the oil on this every 3,000 miles, so what's that? Change the oil on this car 5 times without changing the oil filter, and it would be fine. I might actually do that just to save a little bit of money. I might try that. I might try just marking it. So after this filter change, I might try that. And then if I forget to change it, I'll go back to changing it every time. I just do that out of habit. It's just what I do. Again, you don't have to do that. All you have to do is change the oil. Now, besides the oil and a filter, you're going to need some tools. I have some ramps that you saw me drive up on. You can just use a normal jack if you don't have ramps. These ramps are really inexpensive. They were like, I believe, $30 or $40 at Harbor Freight. I might have gotten a discount on that, I'm not sure. You're going to need an oil pan right there to drain your oil into. And you're going to need a funnel for pouring your oil into the engine once you've changed it. I went and got some rags from my rag bin. I keep these little bits and pieces of old clothing that I was just going to throw away anyway. And I give it just one more use before it's the end of its life as a rag. So I'll use it for cleaning, wiping the dipstick when I check the oil, things like that. That way I don't have to waste any more paper. I can just reuse a piece of cloth that's already been used and reused. You're going to want to leave your car to rest for about 10 to 15 minutes after you've driven it. Let it cool down a little bit. Let the oil settle down at the bottom of the pan. And then you can go ahead and change your oil. Now finally, you're going to need this. This is just a regular ratchet wrench. And I have a 17 millimeter socket on it. And that's all you need. Alright, so if we look down at the engine bay here, this is our oil dipstick. This is where we check our oil level. And this is our oil fill cap. As you can see, 5W20. That's what we got. So I'm going to open this up. Set this aside. And I'm going to leave that open so that it drains quicker. Now, if we look under here, you can see where are we at. There it says engine oil. And right there is our oil drain plug. So that is the 17 millimeter. That's what that's for. And I'm going to loosen that and drain it into our oil pan. And if we go down a little bit this way, you can see there is our oil filter. Very close together, very conveniently placed, easy to reach. Shouldn't be a problem at all to change. Now I think I'm going to do a little time lapse and see how long it takes me to do all this. But that's why I sport the gloves and keep these little rags here. The oil is draining now, so I'm going to let it do that. And while it does that, I'm going to work on loosening the oil filter. Now, that's another thing that I forgot to mention. You might need an oil filter wrench. I don't think I'll need one. I don't think I tightened it by hand, which is what you're supposed to do. You just tighten it by hand. Some people really torque it in there. You don't really need to tighten it all that hard. You just, as much as you can turn it in with one hand, just give it a good little torque there, a good little ugga-dugga, and it should be fine. There's no reason to over tighten it. It might actually cause problems like leaks if you over tighten it. And sometimes it just makes it really hard to remove. I don't think I'll have that problem. I might have jinxed myself. On the home stretch here, we got our oil filter off, we got our oil drained. So now I'm going to put the plug back in the drain. Everything's pretty much done draining, and we're going to work on filling it up. So we're going to put our new filter on, put the oil drain plug back on, and fill it up. That's it. Woo. Okay, so I got my new filter. Before I put it on, very important step. A little fingy dipped into the new oil, and I just rub it around this little rubber ring. Give you a closer look. See this little rubber ring on this? Okay, we want to put the new oil on there to lubricate it, so that the ring itself doesn't get stuck onto the metal that it's going to be screwed onto. And the next time that you take it off, you don't leave the rubber part behind. It comes out with the filter like this guy did. See? Got the cute little holes in it, and the rubber ring is still on there. Now finally, I have this little paint pen. And I like to mark the date on which I changed the oil. That way I keep track of when the filter was last changed. Awesome. Now I'm cleaning this little funnel. Oil filter's tightened, drain plug is tightened. So now we put in the new oil. And finally, you're going to want to know exactly how much needs to go into your engine, because you don't want to overfill it, because that can break seals in your engine, and that will cause oil leaks, which will drain your oil, which will cause eventually, if left to drain, and if you keep driving without refilling the oil that is leaking out, can lead to engine failure. So I want to make sure you're precise with the amount of oil that you're putting back in. Now in my case, it's right under 4 quarts of oil. It's 3.8 quarts. So this is a 5-quart bottle, and we have a handy little measuring device back here. You have markings: 1 quart, 2 quart, 3 quart, 4 quart, 5. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and almost to the 4. So I want a little bit more than a quart left in there, and then I can measure with the dipstick and see if that's enough. I might drive it around for a little bit, and maybe like a day or two, and then see if it needs a topping off, and then at that point I will top it off if it needs it. If not, then you just keep rocking and rolling. That's pretty much it. That's all you gotta do. As for aftercare, I have some empty oil bottles, exactly the same one as this one, that I can drain the old oil into and then take it in for disposal or recycling. Your local dump will usually be able to take care of that. If not, there should be a hazardous waste material place near you. Just Google it, look it up on the interwebs, and you should be able to find something in your area. As far as oil disposal, a lot of times anywhere, it can be as easy as going down to AutoZone or any other car parts store like that. They can a lot of times also take your oil. I believe the only reason they won't take your oil in is if it's contaminated with water or some other type of chemical. So if your engine, if you had a blown head gasket, for example, and your coolant got into the oil, they wouldn't take that. But that's kind of like an iffy situation, because the only reason they would know is if you tell them. They do ask you, hey, is this oil contaminated? And then you can at that point tell them yes or no. I always already know ahead of time, because I have done my oil changes for a long time. So if it is contaminated for whatever reason, maybe I left it sitting out for too long in the rain or something, and then it got some water in the oil. If that's something that happens, then I just take it to the hazardous waste material facility, and they take care of it there. Otherwise, I just go to like an AutoZone or whatever, and they'll handle it. So once you get it on the ground, on even footing, on like a nice level driveway, you can check to see if it is at the fill line. Now this one was, I can't show you because I already wiped it off, but this, you're looking for these two dots. So the bottom one is too low, the top one is full. You don't want to go beyond the top one there, because then you get problems like busted seals. You want to keep it under this line and above, under this dot and above this dot. My oil is currently a little bit below the top line, which is okay. I'm going to drive it around for a day or two and then see if it's pretty close to that top dot. If it's a little bit low, then I'll top it off a little bit and go from there. And now I put the oil fill cap back on. So it's all done here. We don't have any tools left in the engine bay. It's all clear. We check, we double check, we triple check that it's all good. You don't leave anything foreign on there. You close your hood. You drive off your little ramp, or you take it down from your little jacks, and you're all done. That's it. It took me, with recording and all this and that, and trying to track down missing tools, a little bit under an hour. It took me about 40 minutes to do this. It can take you a lot less if you're quicker than me, if you have your all your things ready, unlike me. It'll be a lot faster for you. Again, 15-30 minutes is what it should take most people, even if it's like your first or second time doing this. So it might take you an hour if you're slow like me and unprepared like me, but it's fairly easy. So take your time, don't rush it. Even if it takes you an hour, just set an hour aside. You should be fine. Now, you just changed your oil. You did it perfectly. Everything was great. You changed your oil, you changed your oil filter, you filled it up. It's all good. But now, you're dealing with this pesky light. You got your little wrench light on, and you see this down there. It says 10%. oil life, B12. What do we do about that? How do we clear this code now that we have changed our oil? What do we do? Well, first we turn this off. Okay, so this one's a little annoying. So once you turn it off right before you hit the ignition, so at this position, you put it at position 2. You don't start the car, you leave it at position 2 with everything on the dash on. And then you go up here and you press this selector thing down. You press it in, press it in. It's a little turning knob. It's how you set up your trip life, things like that. Usually it looks like this. I'm pressing it one time and it's gonna make it go away, but that only makes it go away temporarily. When you turn it on again, you will see that it'll come back. So usually that's a good way to keep track of your, miles per gallon. Every time you fill it up, you can reset this by holding it down and it'll clear that top number. The bottom number is your total miles, but it'll give you the amount of miles on that trip. So you can reset it at the start of a trip and calculate how many miles you drove, or you can reset it every time you fill up the gas and you can calculate your gas mileage that way. It's an old school way of doing it. All the new cars today calculate that for you, but this is a good way to do it if you don't have a newer car like that. So again, this is a little bit annoying, but let's try this. We're going to turn it off again. Now I'm going to turn it on to the second position again, and you can see that it came back. Oil life 10%. So now I hold it down for about 5 to 10 seconds. And then it starts blinking like that. Now I'm gonna let it go and then press it down again for another 5 to 10 seconds. And it went away. So let's turn this off and see if it worked. Turn it on again. It looks like we're good. Turn it off just to make sure. Turn it on all the way. There we go. Seems to be gone. And I think you can cycle through and see. There you go. Your oil life is now at 100%. And that is how you do that. This will work for 2007 as well as 2008 models. It should be the same for the base model, which is this one, and the sports model. They should both be the same. Should be the same procedure. Hope that was helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you.